The first thing I'll do then is explain what heuristic crime is. If I get home tonight and while I've been sitting here listening to these presentations, somebody has been relieving me of my television at home, I'm not going to be able to tell the police very much useful about that burglary. And I'm probably not going to be able to say, for example, when it happened. All I'm going to be able to tell the police is what time I left the house this morning, so the earliest possible time that crime could have happened, and what time I get home this evening, so the latest possible time it could have happened. That's not really much use if you're a local manager in the police and you want to deploy some officers, for example, to try and catch people committing burglaries, because a 10-hour window is not very useful if you're trying to deploy officers to be able to just be able to turn around to them and say, well, it's sometime between 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening. So the problem, the normal answer to this problem is to estimate when those crimes have occurred. And over the last 20 years or so, there have been several different methods developed for estimating when crimes happen. The problem is that we don't know when these crimes are happening, and so we haven't been able to test the different estimation models. What I've done is that I've looked at 1,400 crime reports for thefts of pedal cycles from railway stations. And in each case, that's included that start time and the end time, the time the person got back and found their bike wasn't there anymore, and also a description of what's happened in the investigation. And for 303 of those crimes, what I was able to do was identify exactly when it happened, usually from the CCTV. And if you know this gentleman, I believe that crime is still outstanding. Answers on a postcard or to Crime Stoppers. So what I can then do is compare the different estimation methods and the distribution of crimes that they produce with the actual distribution. So using the methods that Chris Brunston talked about earlier on, this is when the crimes have actually happened. So you can see that most of the crimes are happening in the afternoon here, and that there's not many bikes being stolen at 6 o'clock in the morning, which probably tells you something about the people who steal bikes. And that's a probability distribution, a summary of when those crimes have occurred. And then what you do is, there's quite a lot of analysis in this, but today I'm just going to show the worst estimation methods and the ones that came out the best. So this is the worst method. What you do here, and I'm sad to say that from what I can tell, this is the most commonly used method by crime analysts in the UK today, and certainly in London, is to assume that every crime happened at that start time. So as I walked out of my house this morning, a burglar walked in the back door. And that's no good. Quite commonly used, but no good, because you're sending your officers out here at about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. The offenders are all still in bed. By the time the offenders are out burgling, your officers are back in the station writing up their paperwork. Second method you can use is that you can do the opposite. You can assume that as I put my key in the door this evening, the burglar is doing one out of the back window. That's not very good either. You'll see this secondary peak at the top, which is when people who went to the pub after work come home, that they're finding that they've done, that they're finding their property's gone. Better methods. This is to give each crime a random time between that start and end time. That works quite well as long as you've got a reasonably large data set. A probabilistic method, which is known as heuristic analysis, which I can't describe in detail in the time, but gives each crime a probability distribution and then sums those distributions to give you an overall one, does well. So if there are any crime analysts in the room, in summary, don't use the start method and don't use the end methods. They are easy to do and very quick to do if you've not got a lot of time, but they just don't work. The random methods or the heuristic methods tend to work quite well.